Hello, everybody. I'm Amy Betcher with the Two Hills Community Wellness Coalition, THCWC, and I'm here with my dad, Dale Thompson, for my first ever interview of anybody. So I thought I would start with someone who I was fairly comfortable with. So we are here today in his barn, just north of Two Hills. He lives. We live just south, and Mom and Dad live just north. And I'm just going to ask him a few questions today. So, okay, Dad. So how long have you and Mom lived in the Two Hills area, when you, even including being confused snowbirds? That winter in Grand Prairie and summer in Two Hills.
Well, I started riding for Pat Roach when he ran the Rannoch pasture. I rode for him late in the falls because my takeouts at the pasture I had up there were earlier than his. So I'd ride for him for a week or two in the falls, I think around 2007. And I was full-time here, I think, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pat left and Bill took over, and I've been coming every summer since. This last winter is the first winter I've spent the whole full 12 months in the can't even think of what the word to say, but anyways, the first spent 12 months in the same area. But
Gotcha. Okay, so so that's probably, I don't know, over 10 years then. Anyways, you've been in the area part-time.
oh yes, yeah,
Yeah.
well over 10 years.
Well over 10 years. And so I guess that kind of answers what drew you here. You came to ride for Pat part-time, or to help Pat on the pasture
Yes.
on Rannoch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this next question is a little bit, I didn't realize it was difficult until I was trying to explain it to my son. But what does mental health mean to you, or mental wellness?
Well,
It's
that is a tough question. I've had people wonder about my mental wellness for a lot of years, but I guess that helps being a cowboy. But when you're angst and there aren't any answers to the questions going through your head, I think that's the start of a breakdown. And I've been there and tried various things to rectify that. And drinking and drugs are not the answer, but it seems to be a natural one that we turn to.
Mm-hmm.
But mental health means that I'm at peace with the world that I'm in.
Okay. Have you had any? Are you willing to share any experiences where you've had some real dark times in your mental wellness?
Yeah, I could go back almost to my childhood. I was always trying to prove something, so it wasn't the circumstances so much that caused my anxiousness. It was inside my mind. Till I found a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ, and I found much peace through that. Plus, since then, God seemed to have placed me in situations where I could draw close to Him. I love nature, and I've worked on boats and worked in the bush, and I've cowboyed pretty much all my life. And working with animals and the nature around me, I find a lot of peace in doing that.
And how has COVID affected your mental wellness? All of the regulations can be, and the restrictions can be a real challenge. Has that impacted you at all, or have you found some coping mechanisms?
Yeah, it's frustrated me, and I've questioned some things, whether it's government or health officials are doing, but I believe they're doing the best they can with what they've got, and everybody makes mistakes. Nobody makes every decision perfectly. I'm fortunate because I've still got my horses and my dog, and with technology now, I can talk to all my girls and grandchildren on my cell phone, which I was born in 1945, they hadn't been invented yet. So there's lots of things that for me when I'm anxious, I go and work with a horse. It really helps me, or I spend some time with my dog. But my heart goes out to the people that are isolated and don't have access to, or they're locked down and they can't even leave their rooms. I think without the Lord, that would angst me to the nth degree, and I believe that's causing some severe problems in our society.
Right. That's where something like prayer would be really helpful for you in those
Absolutely,
situations.
yes. Yeah, and looking into God's Word really helps me. I find answers there. It's an old word, but it fits today's society quite well.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I have a random question for you. If you could be any animal, what would you be? And why?
That's a tough one. I love horses, but I'm not sure I'd always like somebody sticking some iron in my ribs. But yeah, a good, faithful, solid horse is hard to beat.
That's your favorite animal.
That's for sure. And then dogs next to that. Yeah.
Do you have a poem for us today that you could share, Dad?
Well, I have a couple. One's kind of my life story in a poem. I call it God's Glory. That we're talking about being angst and upset and frustrated and all the negative things that are in the world with COVID. And this is kind of my answer. I was born upon the prairies and I came to love the plains. And I've been awed every season. Sun, snow, and driving rain. I sat my horse upon a hill and watched the prairie unfold at dawn, and smelt the freshness of the prairie breeze, and watched the plain stretch on and on. I worked out on the west coast where the fir and cedar giants are, and stood beside their mammoth boles as they reached up to the stars. I stood upon the heaving deck of a ship way out at sea. From horizon to horizon, rolling swells was all I'd see. I sat my horse above tree line and watched range on range unfold on the eastern slope of the Rockies with their snow caps bathed in gold. I paddled along the Yukon in the land of the midnight sun, been spellbound by their beauty as the northern lights made their run. For years I thought I had control, that destiny was mine, and I could control my world, and on my own I'd do just fine. That God, if there was one, was way out in outer space. Well, the world and its destiny belonged to the human race. Until I stacked the miracles that I had so often seen, the obvious hand of the Creator in the places that I'd been. In all my pomp and glory, and for all my brains and brawn, I could never match the glory that was in a prairie dawn. Or when I see the cedars, or the swells out on the sea, or the snow-capped Rocky Mountains, then how significant is me. The God who made these miracles and set it all in place humbled himself and became a man just to save the human race. The greatest miracle of all is the love of God for me, that Jesus Christ, his own Son, gave up his glory on that tree. So all I do and all I am, whatever road I plod, whatever talents or abilities, all glory belongs to God.
Thanks, Dad. You have another one for us? Finish us off on a light note.
I got a lighter one. I got married and got a little place and lived in a house trailer, and we thought it was pretty fancy when we got it, but we only had one little baby girl by then, and pretty soon we had two more, and with 4 women in the house, I never got to see the inside of the bathroom except to fix something that was broken. So I wrote a poem because I solved the problem, and I'd like to pass that on to any young couples that are starting out. I call it Card Lock. As I headed up from the barn, I took a look in fear. The bathroom light wasn't on. That meant the coast was clear. But they heard my foot upon the step as I fumbled with my clothes, and hurried feet ran down the hall, and I heard the bathroom close. I turned back for the frosty barn. I knew it was my fate. With a wife and 3 young daughters, it was no use to wait. For 18 long and stressful years, although I surely tried, the fixtures of that bathroom I never saw inside. But once the kids had grown, we built a big new house. And off the master bedroom, I built my own outhouse. So when the need arises, I don't even have to knock because I fixed the problem. I have my own card lock.
Well, there's always two sides to a story. Although, yeah, I think we have a picture of Ruth and Brandy and I. One of us is in the shower, one of us is on the toilet, and one of us, I think, is in the sink at the sink. That's how it goes. Well, thank you very much for joining us in our video, and we hope that you'll be encouraged and strengthened and more resilient in your own mental health and your mental wellness. And we wish you well. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.